Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttha Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Sam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Harijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Srila Gurudeva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripada Kacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripraja Kacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Hari Das Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Today's topic is Srila Prabhupada's merciful nature, and I am going to begin by reading a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that to me exemplifies or describes Srila Prabhupada's merciful nature. The verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, verse 23. And it is very significant. Not only is the verse beautiful, but it also has historical significance. Because when, after 16 years, Shukadev Goswami came out of the womb, he left home immediately, and his father, Srila Vyasadeva, followed him into the forest. And when Vyasadeva came close enough to his son for Sukadeva to hear, he recited 2 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, one describing Krishna's beauty from the 10th canto, and one, this verse, describing Krishna's mercy. When Shukadev Goswami heard these 2 verses, the one describing Krishna's mercy and the one describing Krishna's beauty, he became attracted. Although liberated, he became attracted by Krishna's transcendental qualities, and he came back to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from his father. I quote this verse because it reminds me of Srila Prabhupada. How shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he? Aho bhakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayapayayad apyasadvi lebe gatim datruchitam tatonyam kam vadayalum sharanam brajema. Translation. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he, who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stalk of poison. So, the Lord is absolute. He is all good for everyone, and he is neutral toward everyone. He is always thinking of how to do good for others. So even if one approaches him as an enemy, he will try to do good for the person, as in the case of Putana. Although she came to kill Krishna by administering poison from her breast, Krishna elevated her to the position of a nurse, like a mother in the spiritual world. And merciful as Krishna is, I believe that Srila Prabhupada is even more merciful. Srila Prabhupada said, it is the mark of a good man that he takes the good side, not the bad side of others. He gave the example of his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had a disciple named Kunja Bihari Das. People used to call him Kunja Babu, who, Srila Prabhupada said, came to do business with their Guru Maharaj, to profit personally from his relationship with him and from his service in the Gaudiya Math. But Srila Prabhupada said their Guru Maharaj didn't take Kunja's dark side, that he was coming to make business, but he took the bright side, that he was coming to offer service. In his conversation with Bob Cohen, now Brahmatirtha Prabhu, on February 28th, 1972 in Mayapur, Srila Prabhupada said, quote, Putana Rakshasi, she offered Krishna poison, but Krishna is so nice that he thought, she took me as my mother. So he took the poison and delivered her. Krishna does not take the bad side. A good man does not take the bad side. He takes only the good side. Just like one of my big god brothers. He wanted to make business with my Guru Maharaj, but my Guru Maharaj did not take the bad side. He took the good side. He thought, he has come forward to give me some service. Okay. So now back to Srila Prabhupada's purport. In his babyhood, the Lord was administered deadly poison by Putana, a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby. And because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no one less than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee Yashoda. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? Okay. So this verse reminds me of Srila Prabhupada. How shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he? There was no one more merciful than Srila Prabhupada. Lord Nityananda is most merciful, and Srila Prabhupada manifested the same quality of mercy as Nityananda Prabhu. In Bombay, Srila Prabhupada received a phone call from the temple president in Calcutta, who reported that one of Prabhupada's earliest disciples from America had come to Calcutta and was smoking ganja, marijuana, and asked what to do. Prabhupada told his secretary to relay his response, quote, tell him that if he doesn't stop smoking ganja, I will reject him. Afterwards, Tamal Krishna Goswami asked, is it true that if he doesn't stop smoking ganja, you will reject him? And Prabhupada said, no, I cannot reject anyone. The mercy of Lord Nityananda has no limit. Maybe 2 days later, we were in Juhu, and Srila Prabhupada had a disciple who fell into bad association and was living on Juhu Beach with a bogus so-called yogi doing tricks. He was putting a coin in his ear and then making it come out the other. Different strange things to collect money. and he was known as a disciple of Prabhupada and a member of ISKCON. So Tamal Krishna Goswami approached Srila Prabhupada and said, this is happening and he's giving you a bad name and giving ISKCON a bad name. You should reject him. And again, Srila Prabhupada replied, I cannot reject anyone. Tamal Krishna Goswami asked, but don't you have to draw the line somewhere? And again, Srila Prabhupada said, the mercy of Lord Nityananda has no limits. Srila Prabhupada is the manifest representative of Nityananda Prabhu, and his forgiveness is like Lord Nityananda's. How shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he? Srila Prabhupada. Another similar quality of Srila Prabhupada's is that he was always willing to give someone a chance. Around 1976, a strange person with a PhD came to the Juhu temple and said he wanted to join. And Srila Prabhupada invited him to stay upstairs with his personal staff in the flat adjoining his. And Prabhupada spent quite a bit of time with him. Hansaduta Prabhu was visiting at the time, and he told Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you are just wasting your time with this man. He is never going to amount to anything. But Prabhupada kept spending time with him. And in the end, the man left. He never did amount to anything. But when Hansaduta mentioned that to Srila Prabhupada, I could see that he was never going to amount to anything. Prabhupada replied, I wanted to give him a chance. Another person whom Srila Prabhupada encouraged was Dr. C.P. Patel, who would almost always accompany him on his morning walks on Juhu Beach. They had a friendly relationship, but Dr. Patel would sometimes speak like a Mayavadi. Prabhupada would accuse him, you are a Mayavadi. And Dr. Patel would reply, no, sir, I am a Vaishnava, a pure Vaishnava. One morning, Dr. Patel and Srila Prabhupada had a huge argument. Dr. Patel would bring up different so-called holy men of India, and if they were not up to the standard, Prabhupada would criticize them. So one morning, Srila Prabhupada was criticizing one of Dr. Patel's favorite so-called saints of India, and Dr. Patel and he had a huge argument. Dr. Patel raised his voice to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada raised his voice to Dr. Patel. They were literally shouting at each other. And Dr. Patel's friends, his cronies, were trying to pull him away, saying, don't upset Swamiji. He has a heart condition. And eventually they pulled him away. Back at Hare Krishna land, Tamal Krishna Goswami approached Srila Prabhupada in his room and asked him, what is Dr. Patel's position? Is he a Vaishnava or a Mayavadi, an impersonalist? In response, Srila Prabhupada told a story about a man who could speak many languages. In whatever language people addressed him, he could respond fluently. No one could figure out where the man was actually from. After much discussion, a neighbor said, I will find out. So one day, when the man was preoccupied, the neighbor came up behind him and gave him a big whack. And when the man started to curse in his native tongue, his origin was disclosed. Dr. Patel is like that, Srila Prabhupada said. He can speak very expertly. He can sound like a devotee, sound like a Vaishnava, sound like a Mayavadi, sound like anything. But when I gave him a slap where it really hurt, the so-called saintly person that he revered, his real language came out. Tamal Krishna asked, so why do you put up with him? He's so offensive. And Srila Prabhupada replied, it is our duty to engage everyone. He wanted to give Dr. Patel a chance. And as the years passed, Dr. Patel developed great affection for Srila Prabhupada. And after Prabhupada left this world, he wrote a beautiful article for Back to Godhead about his relationship with him. The article was titled, quote, My Life's Most Precious Moments, end quote, with the subtitle, A Bombay Doctor Wins the Title Big Fool and Loves It. Because Prabhupada would always call Dr. Patel a Mudha. He would say, I am not saying, Krishna is saying, Namam Duskritino Mudha. Anyone who does not surrender to Krishna is a Mudha, fool. So how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than Srila Prabhupada? His divine grace had so many wonderful qualities, but his most important quality for us especially was his extreme mercifulness. Srila Prabhupada had a good friend in Bombay named Bhogilal Patel. Bhogilal was elder to Srila Prabhupada by about 3 years, and he was extremely pious. The first devotee to meet him was Gargamuni. And when Gargamuni was explaining Srila Prabhupada's work, Bhogilal Patel wept profuse tears of appreciation. One day, some years later, Bhogilal Patel came to meet Srila Prabhupada at Prabhupada's flat at the back of Hare Krishna land. I had a close relationship with Bhogilal, so I brought him up to meet Prabhupada. The two of them were talking, and as is natural in a conversation, when Prabhupada was speaking, I would look at him. And when Bhogilal was speaking, I would look at him. But at one stage, while Bhogilal was speaking, I looked at Srila Prabhupada, which Prabhupada wasn't expecting. And he was looking at me with such love and affection, like a father or a grandfather. By age, Srila Prabhupada was more like a grandfather. I was surprised that he was looking at me with so much love. But as soon as he saw me looking at him, he changed his expression and became very grave and serious. I think it was some special mercy that I got a glimpse of how much love he had for us, which he didn't usually show very openly. His love for us was manifest in his care for us and his giving us the knowledge of Krishna consciousness and engaging us in Krishna service. Srila Prabhupada was very reserved about touching people, including even disciples. In 1971 in Gorakhpur, as guests of Hanuman Prasad Podar of Gita Press, we were staying in his large estate, Sri Krishna Niketan, which had previously been his personal residence. Srila Prabhupada was traveling with his small Radha Krishna deities, and he wanted to establish an altar for them in Sri Krishna Niketan. he wanted some foliage for the altar, so he sent a couple of devotees, including me, to collect some. I went out to a thicket and was collecting branches with leaves. I wasn't tearing them live. I was looking for branches and leaves that had fallen. I just kept going deeper into the woods and collecting more and more foliage. And eventually I had a huge bundle, as much as I could possibly carry. So I lugged the bundle back to Sri Krishna Niketan and up the stairs. And when I reached the temple room, Srila Prabhupada was there and the altar was being set up. I just dropped the bundle on the floor and offered my obeisances. And while I was on the floor, Prabhupada patted me on the back. It was one of the only times, maybe the only time, that he physically touched me. I looked up and he was smiling broadly. I didn't know if he even needed any more foliage, but he was pleased by my effort. So I ask you, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he? So, my dear Nagapatni Mataji, thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak about our beloved Srila Prabhupada and his merciful nature. And now, yes, if any devotees want, they can ask questions or share reflections.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. That was very beautiful. It was like an offering at a Guru Puja. It was very, very thoughtful and deep. Thank you so much. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand.
Yes, your physical hand or your virtual hand.
Your virtual hand. Because there's so many people.
Yeah.
So, everyone's being shy. We have no questions? So Maharaj.
Yes, there's a hand up.
You see a hand? All right.
Yes. Abhishek Dudwal.
Abhishek, all right. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, man. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
I have a question, like for a devotee or for a beginner. It would be it's very difficult to judge, like how to be merciful, that even in terms of preaching or in terms of involving with the non-devotees. So there has to be some boundary, because for a pure Vaishnava, for Prabhupada, that is his nature and he won't be affected. So what is your advice for others?
Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the answer to your question. Of course, Srila Prabhupada was a Uttama Bhagavat, Maha Bhagavat, and a Maha Bhagavat sees that everyone is serving Krishna except for himself. But when the Maha Bhagavata preaches, he has to act on the intermediate platform of a Madhyam Bhakta. And the Madhyam Bhakta makes distinctions as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Prema Maitri Kripupeksha Sakaroti Samadhyama. Prema, he gives his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitri, he makes friendship with devotees. Kripa, he gives mercy to the innocent. And upeksha, he neglects the envious. So when we preach, we have to distinguish between the innocent and the envious. And we can give mercy to the innocent by preaching to them. But those who are envious, we should, upeksha, we should neglect. And the reason is that if they're envious and we preach to them, they'll become more offensive. So it's better to neglect them. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that even though we neglect them in the sense that we don't go to preach to them, but still we can pray for them. We can still be merciful in the sense that we can pray for him. So yeah, we do need to make these distinctions when we preach.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you've been a devotee for many years, and you've seen a lot of challenges, a lot of disturbances. How is it you stayed so dedicated to Srila Prabhupada?
Well, Srila Prabhupada is my life and soul, but he did give me a very important instruction fairly early on when we were in Calcutta. I said, Srila Prabhupada, now you are here, so everything is going nicely in ISKCON. But what if in the course of time, when you are not here, ISKCON falls from the standard? What should I do? And Srila Prabhupada replied, you are also one of the important members of the society, which at the time I didn't really think I was. I was still pretty new. But anyway, he said, you are also one of the important members of the society. So you should work for the correction, but don't leave. And I think that is an essential instruction. I would say it applies not only to me, but to any follower of Srila Prabhupada, any member of ISKCON. Yeah. You work for the correction, but don't leave. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you. Thank you. So, how do you suggest that devotees deepen their devotion in Krishna consciousness?
Well, chanting attentive rounds is very important. In fact, on a couple of occasions, when devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, he gave a similar answer. I'll quote one incident in particular. Satsvarupa Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada, now you are with us, so we can bring our questions to you. But later, when you're not with us, how will we get answers to our questions? And Srila Prabhupada replied, the holy name of Krishna and Krishna himself are the same. Do you realize this fact? And on other occasions also, he he suggested that we could get answers to our questions by fenceless chanting of the holy names. So yeah, that's really important. Most important.
Important. Yes, and sometimes, we find that good devotees have very different opinions on things. And this can cause some dissension and some trouble. And how do you recommend devotees deal with these issues?
Well, I think of something that Srila Prabhupada said once. I don't know if I would recommend it in every case. But there were three very strong, headstrong, individualistic leaders in the Hyderabad farm. And they often disagreed about how best to serve Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada told them, you meet together, you fight like cats and dogs, and then when you all agree, you go ahead.
And all the time you had with Srila Prabhupada, maybe you'd share some very sweet moments that you've had with him.
Oh,
when particularly touched your heart.
Yeah. I did relate a number of those in the talk. But yeah, he was like very humble. He was compassionate. That was the quality that I emphasized in the talk. He was also very humble. And there was one incident. Well, anyway, there's so many incidents in which he manifested his humbleness. But there's one incident, I'm not remembering the exact details, but I think, someone made an announcement that all the devotees should leave now, meaning us. And Srila Prabhupada also, he thought it was meant for him, that he also had to leave. He was just so humble, he just thought he was like one of the devotees. So, yeah, it's like extremely humble. And another quality is that he could be discouraged, but in another way, he couldn't be discouraged. But after we finally got the Jew land, Srila Prabhupada wanted to take up a collection, for the construction. And he said that, so Dr. Patel was in the room with him, and Dr. Patel said, Srila Prabhupada, you'll have to bring the funds from abroad. And Srila Prabhupada replied, Bombay is such a city that they could give the whole amount in one day if they want. And Dr. Patel said, true, but they don't want. And then Dr. Patel said, I don't want to discourage you, and Prabhupada said, but you are discouraging me. So, yeah, I mean, I could go on speaking about Srila Prabhupada for hours. But yeah, there was another time it was in 1976, we were in Varda for a Gita conference. And just when he was with some disciples, he mentioned that when he got news about how his books were being distributed, he felt very encouraged. And, that really struck me because it seemed like, he was always encouraged internally by his Krishna consciousness, but he became more encouraged when he received the reports about his books being distributed. And I thought of the saying from Vedanta Sutra that Brahman is unlimited but always expanding. So Srila Prabhupada's enthusiasm was unlimited, but it was also increasing in response to our service to him. Yeah.
Would you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, I guess I would say that Srila Prabhupada was human. He was superhuman, but he was also human. And he had all the sentiments that any human being has. But the central point was always Krishna. And therefore, all the sentiments were related to Krishna. They were Krishna conscious. But yeah, he could be encouraged, he could be discouraged. But again, he was always, so resilient. I remember when we were struggling for a long time to get the permission to build in June. At one stage, he said, all right, never mind. We'll convert Hare Krishna land into a bus stop. We'll send buses out to distribute books. And when they run out of books, they can come back and replenish their supply. And we'll turn Hare Krishna land into a bus stop. But one incident that showed his compassion in a different kind of context is we were in Madras, and we were riding in the car together, and there was literally a bus stop, but there was not enough room for everyone to take shelter under the covering of the bus stop, and some of them were in the hot sun. And Srila Prabhupada, was so compassionate. It's like his voice was choked up, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "Oh, they have to suffer so much waiting to get a bus." So yeah, he was really extremely compassionate. But he manifested his compassion in giving people Krishna consciousness, not that he said we should approach the city and have them make the bus stop bigger, but yeah, he did feel that compassion. Yeah. And he said, yeah, anyone, well, in Mayapur he said it, but yeah, no one within 10 miles of the temple should go hungry. We should invite them all and feed them all. So yeah, he was so compassionate, and he had such big plans. help people through Krishna consciousness. I see some hands up.
Oh, good. All righty. I don't know how you see so well.
Yeah, there's Sumit Vasu.
All righty. Go ahead. Unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you and Srila Prabhupada. Can you hear me, Maharaj? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. I was listening from YouTube and then hopped on back to Zoom, Maharaj. And one of the things that struck me when you were talking about the devotee who was taking the illicit substances, that Prabhupada's merciful nature also perhaps came from a place of not finding faults and always seeing the good in people.
Yes.
How do we remember that, particularly when we may see something in our communities and we are not in a position of authority to bring up or address that with concerned individuals? How do we cultivate that mindset to let go and not perseverate on it or not be disturbed by it?
Well, there's two categories. I mean, I'm thinking of what is known as the tranquility prayer. You know, God, give me the grace to accept the things that cannot be changed and the courage to work to change the things that can be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish between the two. So I, you know, yeah, Srila Prabhupada told me work for the correction. So if something needs to be corrected, and if you're in a position, not necessarily directly, I mean, of course, if you have that relationship with the devotee, you could do it directly. And if you don't, then maybe you could approach some authority or some friend of the devotee who is in a position to correct the devotee. And you know, if something is really beyond anyone's ability to correct, then you know, just try to see the good. You know, try to see the good.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we have Kalyani has hand up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you and Srila Prabhupada. So, am I audible, Maharaj?
You are?
Audible? I'm audible, Maharaj?
Yes, you are audible.
So, Maharaj, I belongs to Hyderabad. So, I would like to hear some Prabhupada Leelas in Hyderabad from you.
I mean, there's a long, I think it would be too long, but something very important took place in Hyderabad related to the Juhu struggle. And that is that Srila Prabhupada, you know, he went to Hyderabad and he was staying at the residence of Sri Pannalal Pitti, who was the wealthiest man in Hyderabad. And Srila Prabhupada was accompanied by his secretary, Shamsundar Prabhu, and other devotees. And Mr. Nair, the infamous owner of the Juhu land, which was originally called Nair Wadi and then renamed Hare Krishna land. So he came down to Hyderabad, and Srila Prabhupada wanted to, you know, convince him to reinstate the sales agreement for the land. And Mr. Nair was afraid that Srila Prabhupada had some mystic power that he would use to convince Mr. Nair to sign something that he didn't want to sign. So Mr. Nair brought a guru with him, thinking that the guru he brought would counteract Srila Prabhupada's mystic powers. So, you know, they had a nice meal together, and then afterwards, Srila Prabhupada yawned very, and it gave a big yawn. And Mr. Nair said, Srila Prabhupada, you seem very tired, you should take rest. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, I should take rest. So then Mr. Nair and the guru went into the next room, and Srila Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Goswami that Mr. Nair is tired, and that's why he told me that I should take rest, because actually he wanted to take rest. So go in the next room, and you'll see that Mr. Nair and the guru are both sleeping. So don't wake up the guru, but just wake up Mr. Nair and bring him into my room. So he did it. He brought Mr. Nair into Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada spoke to him. Mr. Nair agreed to revive the sale agreement, and Srila Prabhupada's mission was successful. So that's a little story from Hyderabad. And yeah, of course, Srila Prabhupada had a very good friend, G. Pula Reddy, who donated the land for the Hyderabad temple. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
That story is also in the Lilamrita. Prabhupada was always so clever.
Yes.
He knew exactly what to say and what to do in every situation.
Yes.
Well, Maharaj, we are so grateful. Are there any other hands up that you see? I don't want to cut anyone off.
A minute ago, there was another hand, but I don't know if it's still up. Yeah, maybe not. There was another hand a minute ago, but I don't see it now.
Okay. So we want to thank you very, very, very much from our deepest part of our hearts for your kind attention and speaking so beautifully about Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for arranging the program and inviting me. Yeah, it's
Like the good old days when you used to come to Prabhupada by side.
yeah.
He even joined in a play one year. Remember when we had the play about Lord Ramachandra, and you were one of the sages in the forest?
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
everyone wants to offer your obeisances to Maharaj. for your gratitude. That
Yeah,
would be
we
nice.
can share with
Hare
Vaishnava.
Krishna.
That's good. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desired trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha sindhubheva
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namaha.
Ananta Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai
Ki jai.
Jai